July 27th, 2012, from the stylish high-tech underground studios of Ribbit Media in Warwick, Rhode Island. This is NewsUndies. For July 27th, 2012, this is NewsUndies, all the news that shouldn't be news. I'm Paul Torville with these headlines. Stephen Covey's effectiveness takes sharp downturn following his death. Oh noes! Katie Holmes' Mercedes got dinged by a garbage truck. Eek! Justice Scalia offended by criticism of justices. Good for him. Now he knows something about how we feel about his legal opinions. Now, if we could only ruin his life with our opinions the way he does ours with his. First American woman in space, astronaut Sally Ride, dead at 61, and posthumously came out as gay. Barclays, J.P. Morgan Chase, B of A, thank you for lying to us and misusing our money. Google VP skips over to Yahoo to be CEO. By most accounts, this is, at best, a lateral move. Something private and meaningless about William and Kate's sex life. NASA struggles to simultaneously express pride in Sally Ride's accomplishments without addressing its World War II vintage moral code and propaganda machine. Chad Everett and Sherman Hemsley, dead. The douche who played nice guys and the nice guy who played a douche. The universe's precarious balance is preserved. Coming up after the break, Romney rules, $5,000 bullets, and chick-fil-a.
Soot. You've been hearing a lot of not-so-nice things about soot. Mostly from tree-hugging, dirt-worshipping pansy liberals and people who think breathing is important. They will talk the ears off your head, droning on and on about wind and solar and renewable energy. What they don't tell you is that soot built America. Our modern post-industrial society owes everything to soot. If it wasn't for coal-fired power and diesel-powered transportation, America would grind to a halt. That's a fact. And as long as we have anything to say about it, and as long as there's profit to be made in government subsidies on soot, we're going to do everything we can to keep it that way. We're America's soot industry. Profitable, ugly, traditional, American.
Queen Elizabeth II. Republican presidential hopeful Mitt Romney's campaign continues to slowly implode, crumpling a little more every time he opens his mouth. The candidate addressed the NAACP with the goal of staying on message in front of a hostile crowd. He succeeded, garnering repeated boos from those in attendance. Pundits speculated that this was intended more as a message to his millionaire supporters than to the audience present. Romney's wife, Anne, has gotten into the act, revealing her deep connection to the common voters by referring to them as "you people." Before flying her $77,000 tax exemption, a.k.a. horse, to London to compete in the Olympics. Willard, Mitt to you serfs, then went over to England to cement his foreign policy chops, observe the opening of the Olympics, and poo-poo London's preparedness. London's mayor stopped just short of calling Romney a self-important tool in front of a huge crowd of Olympic revelers. Romney's dug himself such a hole that Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill, whom I've never known to make any public political remark, said Mitt Romney only imitates human behavior. He should know he's got a lot of experience with someone who's more machine now than man, twisted and evil. The recent mass shooting in Aurora, Colorado raises anew the question of whether private citizens need to own fully automatic assault weapons. Here are Pig and Sheep with their thoughts.
Pray, pray, pray. Pray for the victims. Pray for the families. from my cold dead hands. Pray.
"40 years ago, George Carlin summed up the debate by remarking that the Army has all the flamethrowers. Today, the situation is the same, only more so. Now the U.S. military can reduce a person to a whiff of smoke and a greasy smudge on the ground from thousands of miles away without endangering a single service member. A survivalist or anarchist shipping container full of MAC-10s and C4 is no match for that kind of firepower. The only use of a survivalist kind of weaponry is against other survivalists, or in mass shootings. Even more disturbing, I think, is that the gun lobby has given up on First Amendment rights. I can't help but wonder how many more people would have died had he shouted fire in that crowded theater instead of opening fire."
That's what Pig and Sheep think. What are your thoughts? Email them to ovcomments@newsundies.com. Bible Belt fried chicken mecca Chick-fil-A makes it clear that it's not interested in expanding to markets where people are people and have equal rights. In case you've been in a coma for the last couple weeks, you should be at least minimally aware of the furor that has blown up around the comments of Chick-fil-A President Dan Cathy, placing himself and the company squarely on the side against marriage equality. The thing that catches my eye, apart from the GFYS letters to Cathy from city officials in Boston, Chicago, and Philadelphia, suggesting that the company look elsewhere for markets in which to expand, is the way defenders of Chick-fil-A and the Cathy family complain that the First Amendment rights of Cathy and the company are being quashed by protesters and boycotters. Okay, someone is missing a very obvious point here, and I don't think it's the gays. Let's pretend for a moment that I own a successful company. This is a hypothetical. Now, let's say I'm an atheist, but I haven't been particularly vocal on any hot-button issues. In the upcoming election, however, I felt that the issues of Christians homeschooling their kids, in part to downplay the importance and scientific validity of evolution in favor of the so-called intelligent design, needs to be addressed, such that homeschooling curricula need to be regulated to ensure homeschooled children receive the same science education they would get in public schools. How long do you suppose it would be before Christians boycotted my business and called me a monster? Ordinary consumer timepieces don't measure time periods that short, I can assure you. The boycotts and complaints would not be an infringement of my First Amendment rights. They would be a constitutionally protected response to a constitutionally protected opinion. The Cathy family and their supporters are entitled to their opinions, however reprehensible and medieval they may be. Mike Huckabee, Southern Baptist minister, talk show host, and bass player for Capital Offense, declared August 1st Chick-fil-A Appreciation Day, decrying the liberal vitriol and hate speech being directed at Cathy and his company, couching his own hate speech and vitriol in biblical rectitude as if the Bible isn't chock full of vitriol and hate speech. Since the Supreme Court has equated money with speech, it seems perfectly rational to me to deny anyone the opportunity to use my voice/money to spread an opinion I find abhorrent. Wouldn't you, Mr. Huckabee? Don't go away. Coming up after the break, sports for free, private party at the movies, and Michelle Bachmann's favorite things.
It can be hard to think rationally when a loved one passes away. This can be especially true in the event of untimely death or when religious or cultural traditions demand quick interment of remains. Blue and Flatley Funeral Homes are here to ensure your needs are served in the most efficient and profitable way possible. At Blue and Flatley Funeral Homes, your money is very important to us, and we want to make sure we do everything you can afford to put your mind at ease. Blue and Flatley, profiting from the misery of others since 1883.
Michael Phelps. And now here's Ryan Hanley with another Jeff Goldblum fact.
You know Jeff Goldblum. Jeff Goldblum was on the Jamie Kennedy experiment. He was selling a fragrance called Simply Goldblum, but it burned his eyes and skin. I still would have bought it. Back to you.
Thanks, Ryan. Fascinating. And now here's Moose Weintraub with the Sports Half Minute.
Weintraub Sports Half Minute. It's a whole half minute of sports. 30 seconds of sports. Weintraub Sports Half Minute.
The 2012 Summer Olympics started in London. Let the extraordinary exploitation of cheap labor begin.
Weintraub Sports Half Minute.
Thanks, Moose. Always a great report from Moose. Actor Fred Willard, 72, was caught by local police in Santa Monica's Tiki Theater allegedly engaging in misdemeanor lewd conduct. Details are sketchy, but an unnamed witness reported hearing Willard ask, "What happened?" as police led him from the theater. Willard is perhaps best known for his work with Martin Mull and his various roles in the films of Christopher Guest. Willard's next project, according to IMDb, is entitled The Yank. And finally, and I do mean finally, we all saw this coming, didn't we? Republican Speaker of the House John Boehner revealed his alter ego, Captain Obvious, in calling Michelle Bachmann pretty dangerous, following remarks Bachmann made about an aide to Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton. Bachmann had suggested that Clinton aide Huma Abedin had infiltrated the U.S. government on behalf of radical Islamists in the Muslim Brotherhood. When asked whether Bachmann's remarks warranted her removal from the House Intelligence Committee, Representative Boehner indicated he felt the one had nothing to do with the other. The reporter stopped short of asking how an imbecile like Bachmann ever got in the House Intelligence Committee in the first place. Well, that's all for this edition of NewsUndies. If you see news that shouldn't be news, you can submit your story tips online at newsundies.com. NewsUndies is a bi-weekly show. We'll be back on August 10th with Fresh Undies. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Paul Torville. After that, I might be defiantly starving to death in front of a Chick-fil-A.